G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Michael, I'm the Moto Barista, and here we're talking all things motorcycles and delicious coffee. So today I'm not on the bike. I've had a crazy week. There's been a couple of storms and I've been caught out in all of them. I mean seriously, I was riding my Harley Sport Glide through flooded water. It was pretty intense, but the bike's good, I'm good, but my riding gear is soaked through. So leaving that out to dry now. I'll get back out on the bike tomorrow ready for work, but I'm just having today off, just relax a little bit. I'm a bit exhausted, so I'm kind of taking today to kind of have a walk around my beautiful local town, enjoy the sunshine whilst it's out, and talk to you today about how motocross has saved my life. So I want to talk to you about a bit of my history riding and racing motocross and some of the skills that I've learned and how it's helped me to ride better and ride more safely on the road. So as you can see, I'm in this beautiful little area in the town of Fremantle in Perth, Australia. Behind me I've got these beautiful old shipping cranes, and next to me, which I'll show you in a minute, I've come across this stunning submarine that was used by the Australian Navy in World War I, and it was used in the opening campaigns in the Battle of Gallipoli. So this submarine right here has so much history and it's such a beautiful piece of machinery. I can't believe I've never seen this before. It really shows that you really need to take that time to get out and explore your local town and explore your backyard and see what else you can find that you've missed before. So the opening video that you saw just now was the first video actually I ever filmed and edited. And I took that back in about May or June earlier this year, and that was when I went on a beautiful 3-day trip down to the southwest of Australia, and that was the Manjimup 15,000 motocross event that I took that footage. It's a massive motocross event that brings all the best riders in Australia and some international riders. So I started on a motorcycle on the dirt. I was 6 years old, I got my first motocross bike, and I started learning how to ride, and then soon after I began racing. And my dad was a motocross racer, he was a motocross coach, and we kind of lived and breathed motocross as a family. Every weekend we would be out riding, out camping, at the race event, just living and breathing motocross. Now if you've ridden motocross before, you'll know that there is a different riding technique as opposed to riding on the road, and the main thing has to do with body positioning on the bike. There's a lot of counter steering when you're racing motocross, riding a motocross bike, as opposed to leaning with the bike and getting yourself over the bike when you're riding on street. You're actually leaning the other way on a motocross bike. And this is to counteract the slide that the bike has, of course, because you're racing on dirt, you're racing on sand. These are surfaces that have far less traction. So the bike is wanting to slide out. We're trying to give that bike as much balance and traction as possible to get through the corners. So that's really where that experience in motocross helps out on the street. It's very common to come across, imperfect roads that may be suffering from, oil slicks, gravel, sand, anything that could get in the way of a motorcycle and cause it to slip out, particularly in the corners. Even another example, of course, is the wet, and I definitely had that bike sliding around during those storm rides that I had earlier this week. So again, that motocross technique, learning how to handle the bike under unfavorable conditions, is really helpful, and I think can bring a lot of confidence to the rider. I think a boat just went past, which is why it's all wavy and noisy around here at the moment. Let's go for a walk. I'm going to show you this awesome submarine, and then we're going to go find somewhere else to sit down and talk about the almost accident I had a couple of months back and how I managed to save my bike from crashing out and probably save myself and my girlfriend a trip to the hospital. Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about that almost accident. So it was late at night. I was driving my girlfriend to work. She was on the back of the bike, and we just pulled out of the driveway of our home, and we were riding up the street, about to take a right-hand turn, and obviously the streets are real dark, so we couldn't really see the road. There was a little bit of light, obviously, from the headlight and from a couple of low street lights, but nothing too much. And as I took that right-hand turn, the back tire hit a nail. The whole bike slid out. The whole back end completely slid out, and the bike dropped to the floor. I even had very slight scuff marks on the saddlebags. Luckily, they came out. My bike was very far over. Now, in this scenario, it's very tempting to quickly pull on those brakes, and that would have been the complete end of the bike. Instead, that motocross training kicked in, and without even thinking, I kept that throttle steady, managed to shift my weight and counter steer, allowing that bike to regain any traction that it could and tilt back up. And as soon as it tilted back up, I was then able to jump on those brakes and bring it to a stop. The bike didn't hit the ground. Both of my girlfriend were completely fine. I managed to save that bike and probably us from some very, very expensive bills. So being able to save the bike from that situation, it's really heavy bike from falling over in that situation. I'm really happy to have that motocross experience under my belt. I think if I didn't have that experience, the outcome would have been very different. Another thing that you learn about riding motocross is that it hurts when you fall off a motorbike. Now, I've broken multiple bones, dislocated shoulder, and a bunch of other accidents, and I can tell you it hurts, and it hurts when you're wearing full gear and you hit the dirt. I haven't hit concrete yet, but I know that if I do hit the concrete, it's gonna hurt a lot. I know my limits, and I know and have a further understanding of the kind of cost-reward analysis when it comes to taking risks and making decisions on the motorcycle. So that leads me into another little story I have for you about my dad, a very experienced motocross racer, far better than I ever was, and it's actually one of the first times he jumped on a sport bike with no experience on a sport bike whatsoever. So this kind of leads me into another bit of a message from this video, and that is just because you have experience on a motocross bike and you're a very accomplished off-road racer and rider doesn't mean that you're automatically great on the road. And this story about my dad's accident will probably demonstrate that very clearly. Now, like I said, a very talented motocross racer jumped on a sport bike for his first time, and an extremely fast sports bike at that. I can't remember what it was. And again, just wasn't used to the dynamics of body positioning and body technique when riding on the road and riding a sport bike in comparison to a motocross bike. He came round a roundabout and for whatever reason, high-sided his motorcycle and was airborne for far longer than anyone should be. This is where some motocross training kicked in, learning how to crash. I know it sounds ridiculous, but when you crash a lot on a motocross bike, which you will if you do race, you start learning how to crash more safely, really. And it's exactly kind of what saved my dad's life. Whilst he was airborne, he was heading towards a lamppost, and seeing that coming was able to move his head and position himself in a way to absorb more of the impact in stronger parts of his body. Granted, it didn't help much, but it probably just saved his life. He ended up walking away. Well, no, he didn't walk away. He ended up being carried away with a broken and dislocated shoulder, 4 broken ribs, a collapsed lung, plus I think he broke his arm, his wrist. I'm sure if you find a way to contact him, he'll be happy to tell you about it for hours on end. But the point is, know your limits, know your abilities, know that you need to build skills when moving to different motorcycles and to different types of riding, from on-road to off-road or off-road to on-road. It's really important to have that training and have that humility to take your time and really get used to the new dynamics. So I just want to end this video by saying invest in yourself, invest in good training. If you're somebody who's looking to get into motorcycle riding, consider taking a off-road lesson as well. Start learning how a bike handles in subpar conditions, because it's going to face you at some time on the road, whether around a corner or even just coming to a stop. The more training that you can invest in yourself to become more comfortable on your motorcycle, whether on-road or off-road, is going to really help you when it comes to making life-saving decisions. And if you're an experienced road rider already and you've never ridden a bike off-road, I'd highly recommend it. One, it's a whole bunch of fun, and two, like I said, you're going to build more technique and more understanding about how the motorcycle handles. For me, I'm really looking forward to getting to more motocross events hopefully this year. I'm currently setting up my bike ready for some long distance touring, and this summer I'm going to be doing lots of motorcycle camping and hopefully hitting more and more motocross events, and hopefully getting myself on a bike at some point as well. It's definitely a sport that I really miss, and I still hold dearly onto the culture and the lifestyle, and of course the skills that come with motocross. I hope you found today's video entertaining and maybe even informative. I'd love to hear from you about some of the experiences that you've had on the bike. What kind of situations have you been in that your technique and your skills and your experience have managed to help you avoid a costly accident? Perhaps you've even been in an accident yourself and you've learned some really important lessons from it too. I'd love to hear those in the comments as well. I'd also want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's been watching these videos. It's only been a few weeks and 2 of my videos have managed to hit 1,000 views each. So it's a small milestone, but it means a lot, and hopefully is a sign for many great things to come. So thank you so much for that. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Share it with your friends on social media, and I look forward to catching you all on the next one. All right, peace.